Our exclusive conversation with Charles Alexander after LSU announces they're retiring his jersey and who should be next. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. We found out that LSU will retire Charles Alexander's jersey. Alexander the Great, number 4, who is one of the greatest players in LSU football history, will join Billy Cannon's number 20, Jerry Stovall's number 21, and Tommy Casanova's number 37 as those jerseys honored by LSU. Now, the one point to note is, of course, only Billy Cannon's number 20 is retired. His 20 was retired as soon as his playing career ended. Same with Bob Pettit's number 50. In basketball, LSU's tradition is to retire the jersey. So the number can continue to be worn, but in effect, it's a ring of honor of sorts. And I'm thrilled for Charles Alexander. When the news came down, I had a chance to talk one-on-one with Charles. I'll let you hear some of what he had to say here. And we'll give some context on Charles Alexander and obviously also talk about, I think, who could be next for LSU, but some disclosure. Back in 2012, when Charles Alexander was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame, I was somewhat new in my job at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and connected with Charles Alexander at the time. And he has a product line called Come On Man Cajun Seasoning. And at the time, we did a series called Hall of Fame Moments. And so I interviewed Charles long form, and I took a lot of those cuts and we cut them into short form vignettes and played them on our radio station on my show all the way leading up through that college football season, leading up to his induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. And so I've gotten to know Charles really well over the last dozen years or so. And he's a genuinely great man. As great a football player as he was, he is a genuinely great, humble superstar human. And I'm personally very thrilled for him. So when I reached out and asked him if he'd do an interview, of course, he was gracious, as he always is, and had a chance to visit with him. But, if I didn't get a chance to watch Charles Alexander play at LSU. I'm 43 years old. I'm 42. I'll be 43 in July. I'm 42. I was born in 1982. So Alexander's LSU career finished in 1978. So he played from 75 to 78. So I didn't even get to see him play at LSU. But even still, when I talked to Charles and people who played with him and in that era, what's so clear is Alexander is his era's version of Leonard Fournette. He was a 2-time first-team All-American. There's only been 10 of those in LSU's history. He rushed for 4,035 yards, 40 touchdowns, 855 carries at LSU. When he left LSU, he held 27 school records at the time. He still holds records for most yards in a season, for most rushes in a single game, most yards per game in a season. He held SEC records for rushing yards in a season, rushing yards in a career, rushing yards in a single average in a single game. Rushing yards per game in a season, rushing touchdowns in a season. I mean, he was the 12th pick in the draft of the Cincinnati Bengals. He played in a Super Bowl. You look at his career, and he was all of these amazing things in that era that we all in this current era saw from Leonard Fournette from the time he was recruited, came to LSU and played. So this is probably something that is long overdue, and I'm glad LSU is getting to and has been getting to honoring their football past. Now, I mentioned I had a conversation with Charles Alexander, and I started by asking him how he found out the news that his jersey was going to be retired.
Gotten a phone call about probably 9:30 in the morning. I wasn't really ready for it. Wasn't expecting a call. Didn't even know they had a vote or anything. And one of the assistant ADs called me and told me the news, and I was just elated. I was happy, shocked, because I didn't even know it was being voted on, and I've been getting phone call after phone call, all the Tiger LSU people that I know, and calling, congratulating, and that's pretty much all I've been doing today is talking on the phone and returning text messages.
Well,
yeah.
I
It's
appreciate
a lot of fun, though, man. Social media is amazing. That's all I.
Didn't even know there was a vote. And I get asked often, how that comes to pass. Well, the LSU Hall of Fame committee, first of all, someone has to be nominated. Then it has to go through the vetting and voting process. But you have to be 5 years removed from your playing career, which clearly Charles Alexander is. More on that in just a bit. But the other thing that's pretty incredible when you hear Charles's story is, and he's often told me this story about being recruited, and, it was signing day, and this was back in the 1970s, very different than it is now, and he wasn't really sure where he was going to go. He's down to LSU. He's from Galveston, so LSU, Texas A&M were kind of who he was down to, and he was going to school, thought he was going to have a kind of a casual day, and Coach McClendon was outside of his house when he left for school that morning, and ultimately made the decision and committed to him right there. But it's interesting when you hear in context Charles Alexander talk about what his expectations were of his LSU career whenever he committed to LSU and what it became.
When I decided to go to LSU, I wasn't really looking at it as going to LSU, having a great career, and then going to the NFL. My goal was to go to LSU, try to get a degree, and come back to my hometown of Galveston, Texas, and to coach high school football. That's because I didn't really, I wasn't known as a blue chipper or like a 4 or 5 star kid. I was just a big kid that could run fast but in a straight line, and I wasn't one of these shifty type of running backs. So I didn't really think that I would have a future, but everything just kind of clicked at LSU. I had some coaches that were very patient with me. I don't know if I ever told you this, man. I only averaged like 2.8 yards a carry my freshman year. Mm-hmm. Most kids would have been benched, or replaced after averaging 2.8 yards a carry. They said, well, maybe you're playing the wrong position and we need to switch you somewhere else because you're not a good running back. But they were patient, and things started. I went from a 2.8 yard a carry running back my freshman year to a 5.7 yards a carry my sophomore year. So that was a big jump. And then that gave me the confidence. I'm like, okay, if I keep working hard, I can do this. And then things just kept getting better and better at LSU once I got comfortable.
Things got better and better, and he ended up a 2-time All-American, a 2-time Heisman finalist, and now Charles Alexander's number 4 jersey will be recognized with 3 other greats, Billy Cannon, Jerry Stovall, and Tommy Casanova. I want to give some context on where Charles Alexander fits in that pantheon and who could be next. We'll get to that as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. LSU for decades had only recognized Billy Cannon's number 20. It wasn't until Joe Oliva became the athletic director, and Joe Oliva was a terrible athletic director and doesn't deserve credit for much. But I will give credit where it's due, and criticism where it's justified. One of the things Joe Oliva did whenever he was hired is he wanted to beautify facilities and honor LSU's history, and that he did. The window project, and if you remember, Tiger Stadium's windows were broken and rusted, and the exterior of the stadium needed a facelift, and they beautified the exterior of Tiger Stadium with the window project, and they began a process of honoring past teams and individual players. Why, when you walk around Tiger Stadium now, you'll see there's a Billy Cannon statue. There's monuments to all the SEC and national championship teams. There's recognition of national award winners. And part of it also became recognizing former greats by retiring jerseys. And we've seen it in several sports. Of course, in basketball, recently you've seen it with Shaq and Rudy Macklin and Chris Jackson. In baseball, recently you've seen Todd Walker, Eddie Furness join Ben McDonald, Skip Bertman. In women's basketball, Simone Augustus, Sylvia Fowles. And of course, in football, it's the three that I've mentioned now after Billy Cannon. It was Tommy Casanova first, then Jerry Stovall, and now Charles Alexander. And there's more to come. But when you think of it, of course, Billy Cannon was from the moment Billy Cannon played and won the 1958 National Championship and the Heisman Trophy in 1959, every conversation about the greatest anything in LSU started with Billy Cannon. Until Joe Burrow came along. And it took 60 years for someone to challenge that seat and even surpass Billy Cannon in the hierarchy in LSU football. But it doesn't mean, it's like in any Hall of Fame, Babe Ruth is in the same Hall of Fame as Jeff Bagwell. It's not to say Jeff Bagwell isn't a warranted Hall of Famer, but one is greater than the other. And so there are layers and tiers and all. But the point being, many are warranted. Tommy Casanova is the only 3-time All-American in LSU football history. Jerry Stovall was the Heisman runner-up in 1962. And many will tell you that Terry Baker from Oregon State, who won the Heisman Trophy that year, that it should have been Stovall, but the voters nationally didn't want to elect a Southern running back so close together, from Billy Cannon to Jerry Stovall. And that may sound a little odd here, but remember the context of the time. All the games weren't on TV, so you didn't get to see players play. A lot of these voters didn't necessarily, all they were reading press clippings. And so maybe there was that feeling that you wanted some regionality to the award. So Jerry Stovall was a Heisman runner-up and probably should have won the award in 1962. And now Charles Alexander was a 2-time Heisman finalist in 1977 and 1978, was the 12th overall pick of the draft, a 2-time All-American at running back, held 27 records by the time he left school. Many of them still hold up today. So absolutely, totally warranted. And I love that LSU is continuing to honor its history. And I do think that there's some catching up still they have to do. Remember, I told you there's a 5-year waiting period. So from the moment a player's career ends, they have to wait 5 years until they can be elected. Now, I said when Joe Burrow's career ended that they should have waived the 5-year waiting period and the 9 should have been retired immediately. And by the way, I also don't think that jersey number should ever be issued again. And since 2019, LSU has not issued the number 9. So no one has worn number 9 since Joe Burrow did in 2019. Similarly, last season, LSU did not have a number 5, and they do not have a number 5 this year either on the roster. So they have not issued Jaden Daniels' number again. And I do believe that should hold, and those numbers should be retired, that nobody should ever wear 9 or 5 again in LSU football history. But I do understand, you start retiring numbers, then you start running out of numbers to wear if you start doing that. So I understand why there's a methodology of honoring players by retiring their jersey or ring of honor of sorts, as opposed to retiring the number. But I think there's 4 players that are obvious and should be next. Kevin Falk's number 3 should be honored. Falk left LSU as the all-time all-purpose yardage leader in SEC history. I mean, think about that. In the history of the Southeastern Conference, nobody gained more yards than Kevin Falk until Tim Tebow came along. He is 100% warranted, and he ushered in the modern era of LSU football. After the 6 straight losing seasons, Kevin Falk made it cool for in-state kids to come to LSU and sort of had a rebirth of the program of sorts. I think Kevin Falk's number 3 is obvious. Glenn Dorsey is the most decorated defensive player in the history of LSU football. Every defensive award he could win, he won. He was a 2-time All-American. And Glenn Dorsey, 72, in my opinion, should have been honored in 2012, the second it was able, after the 5-year wait period. Yet he still waits. But Glenn Dorsey, 72, has to be there. And then the 2 that we mentioned, the Heisman Trophy winners, and Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, their numbers 9 and 5 should also be recognized. But again, LSU hasn't issued those jerseys, those numbers to anybody in the seasons since, and I don't think they will. Nor should they. But I think those jerseys, those numbers should be retired, 9 and 5. And Kevin Falk's 3 and Glenn Dorsey 72 should be honored with the others. I think those are next. And what I would tell anybody is you should, if you think it's worthy, then you should nominate any of these players, because for that process to happen, someone first has to formally nominate someone through the Hall of Fame committee. So then the committee can then go through the steps of acting and voting on it. But most importantly, it's not about who's next. It's about who's now. And who's now is Charles Alexander. And our congratulations to Alexander the Great, tying eras together, as so many people like me and even younger than me who didn't get to watch Charles Alexander play now know of Charles Alexander and will know of him for as long as they continue to play football at LSU, which we hope is for all of our lifetimes and many, many more. So it's why history like this is so important to be recognized, because it tells the story of the program for future generations that were not able to watch these players play, so they can understand their significance in the history of this program that we all love. So our congratulations to Charles Alexander, now in rarefied air at LSU. By the way, Charles did tell us, I should have mentioned this, the ceremony will be September the 13th for the Florida game in Tiger Stadium. It's when they'll honor Charles Alexander during the Florida game on September the 13th. We'll be talking about it then, like we are every single day here, talking about what you care about. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day here on Locked on LSU. Now, for your second listen, how about you go check out the Portal Show, available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. If you are on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.